Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump did it. His tariffs have actually worked. You see, as I'm sure you've all heard by now, President Trump threatened to impose trade tariffs on both Canada and Mexico if they refuse to help secure their sides of the border. Every single day, our open borders on the north and south are abused by illegal immigrants, drug smugglers, and human traffickers. I'll tell you what, it's a big problem that we can't handle on our own. We need help from our neighbors to the north and south. So, Trump said, hey, listen up. If you don't help us lock down these borders and make them secure, we're going to impose a 25% tariff on everything coming out of your countries into our country. He also said that if they tried to escalate this into a full-blown trade war or impose their own counter-tariffs against the US, then he'd escalate those 25% tariffs into 50% tariffs. And guess what? The deadline came. Trump imposed the tariffs on both Mexico and Canada after both of them ignored his requests for help for weeks, by the way. But ultimately, they both completely capitulated within the last 12 hours. First off, let's take a look at Mexico, which actually agreed to Trump's demands before Canada did. As posted earlier today by Mexico's El Presidente, Claudia Sheinbaum. We had a good conversation with President Trump. With great respect for our relationship and sovereignty, we reached a series of agreements. Mexico will immediately reinforce the northern border with 10,000 members of the National Guard to prevent drug trafficking from Mexico into the United States of America. The United States of America is committed to working to prevent the trafficking of high-powered weapons into Mexico. Our teams will begin working today on two fronts: security and trade. All of these things will pause the tariffs for 1 month from now. So, folks, there you have it. As a consequence of Donald Trump's tariffs, Mexico has now agreed to deploy 10,000 of their own military personnel to help secure our southern border. Yes, this is what winning looks like. Speaking of winning, I do want to say real quick, if you guys enjoy the videos, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps a ton. Every single day, I'm combating the dreaded YouTube algorithm, and the support really does go a long way. But okay, let's talk about Canada now. As you might remember, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau actually imposed counter-tariffs on the US just yesterday, effectively saying that he's willing to enter a trade war with the United States of America. I would guess that he thought Mexico was going to back him up on this. Well, as we just saw, when morning rolled in, just around 10 hours later, Mexico completely capitulated to Trump's demands and agreed to help secure their end of the border. So, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was pretty much left all by himself in a trade war against the United States of America, not exactly a good position to be in. Given these almost comical circumstances, I suppose Trudeau had a change of heart, releasing this statement. I just had a good call with President Trump. Canada is implementing a $1.3 billion border plan, reinforcing the border wall with new choppers, technology, and personnel, enhancing coordination with our American partners, and increasing resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. Nearly 10,000 frontline personnel are and will be working on protecting this border. In addition, Canada is making new commitments to appoint a fentanyl czar. We will also list the cartels as terrorist organizations, ensure 24/7 eyes on the border, and launch a Canada-US joint strike force to combat crime, fentanyl, and money laundering. I have also signed a new intelligence directive on organized crime and fentanyl and will be backing it up with $200 million. Proposed tariffs will be paused for at least 30 days while we work together. So, folks, there you have it. Canada has ultimately decided to capitulate to Trump's demands as well, agreeing to lock down their side of the border just like Mexico. Now, it's worth remembering real quick, all Trump originally wanted from Mexico and Canada was a little bit of help with securing the borders. Like I said earlier, some pretty terrible industries have popped up along our borders as a consequence of our lack of border security. Canada and Mexico are just as responsible for it as we are, which is really what makes this entire situation so strange. Mexico and Canada are supposed to be our allies, they are our neighbors, but both of them refused to do anything until after the tariffs were imposed. Trump made his request for help months ago, and they both ignored him. It was only after punitive measures had been taken that they decided to actually do something. Actually, Canada's first move was to impose retaliatory tariffs against.
Let's just take Super Bowl Sunday, okay? It's going to affect beer, okay? Most of it, Corona here, comes from Mexico. It's going to affect your guac, because what is guacamole made of? Avocados, both from Mexico.
The United States. I have to say, I don't think Trump was really asking for anything unreasonable. I mean, hey, if my neighbor's dog poops on my lawn, I expect them to come and clean it up. Really, it's just one of those situations. All you have to do is be a good neighbor. But you know what's funniest about all of this? All the progressive politicians and all of the left-wing media outlets have been absolutely screeching that Trump's tariffs will never work, that they're just going to backfire and harm American consumers. In fact, take a look at this recent clip from none other than Chuck Schumer. Video clip placeholder. Yeah, well, guess whose tariffs just worked? That's right, Donald Trump's. You know what I feel like I just have to say? You want to know what's really actually bad for American consumers? Because it's not trade tariffs. How about over 100,000 young Americans overdosing on fentanyl and dying each and every year? Or how about soaring housing prices and suppressed wages because 3 million illegal immigrants are coming into the country each year? Or hey, how about tens of thousands of children going missing each year because of human traffickers? These are all things that are actually bad for Americans, not a shortage of Corona beer on Super Bowl Sunday. By electing President Trump, we have decided to become a serious country again. We are getting back to tackling the issues that actually matter to Americans, and slightly more expensive guacamole isn't one of those issues. But anyway, here's the point. America has an actual president back in the White House again. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Trump has gotten more done in 2 weeks than Joe Biden has in 4 years. And you know what? While we're talking about border security, take a look at this border crossing chart from just a few days ago. Trump has already knocked illegal border crossing sightings down to almost zero, where under Biden, it got as high as 2,500 sightings per day. And guess what? That chart doesn't even include assistance from Mexico or Canada, which we now have. But because of Trump's tariffs. It's probably worth mentioning here, Trump now has leveraged tariffs against not only Mexico and Canada but also Colombia and Panama. His negotiation strategy seems to be pretty tried and true at this point. It also seems as if Trump doesn't actually want to impose tariffs on other countries long-term. Tariffs are just a negotiation tactic to get other countries to chip in their fair share. Because let's be brutally honest here, a lot of other countries around the world have been acting as vultures, slowly picking apart the dying carcass of America.